Well, good morning and happy Father's Day. Yeah, we're celebrating all the fathers today. How many here actually are fathers? Raise your hands. Oh, a lot. Okay, we're celebrating you guys today. Right? Yeah. Finally. I know we celebrated mothers last month, so it's your turn, all right? And what I know for sure is that we all have fathers, or we all had a father. So we're celebrating that today, too. We're celebrating all fathers. And what I know is that some people have been fortunate enough to have had a really terrific relationship with their fathers. You know, it's like he was just supportive and inspiring and empowering and, you know, really set you on a good path, and he was really one of the good ones. And some people have, you know, had a more complicated relationship with their father, right? Now, I didn't get a chance personally to get to know my father because he died he passed away when I was 5. So I didn't get to know that. I mean, I hear stories, you know, my mom would tell me stories, and I kind of sort of knew he was a good one, you know, gave me love, but I didn't quite get there. And I know some of you have lost your father, you know, along your way. And it's never easy, and I know someone who just lost their dad just recently, and, you know, it's never easy. It's difficult to lose someone we love, particularly a parent, because they play such an important role in our lives, right? They play such an important role. And I also know people who are experiencing their dad aging and, you know, not being the father that they remember. So Father's Day brings up a lot of mixed emotions for a lot of us. You know, a lot of feelings come up, right? And, you know, I think in our father's generation, or if you're really young, your grandfather's generation, the previous generation, they were, you know, living out this older traditional role of father, you know, where you really separate this, what the mother does, that's what the father does. You know, that old traditional thing of being kind of taking charge and making the decisions and stern, maybe even authoritarian, and the good provider, right? The good provider. And sometimes that focus, you know, it sort of outweighed some of the other softer qualities that Karen was singing about, the vulnerability and the love. And, you know, for some guys in, you know, a different generation, that's considered weak. But, yeah, I think it's only recently have we realized how much courage and strength it takes to be vulnerable, to express that love, you know, and like mothers that we were talking about last month when we were celebrating Mother's Day, you know, our father could have been dealing with some deep pain that we never even knew about, or just didn't have a good role model himself. So we practice forgiveness. We practice forgiveness, and we acknowledge what we did receive. Right? We acknowledge all the good that we did receive. And here's the good news. Whatever we didn't receive from our Father, we can give to ourselves. We can learn to give to ourselves and allow the Spirit divine to give to us through us. Because all of those qualities that we associate with Father, are contained in the Father Archetype. That Father Archetype that is within all of us, male, female, non-binary, everybody. It's that, you know, Carl Jung talked about the archetypes, that there's a series of archetypes that exist in all of us. And it's like this, kind of like this inner psychic blueprint that is within us, and they're fundamental aspects of the collective unconscious that connects us all. Collective unconscious connects us all. And that Father Archetype is played an important part in our development. So if we feel like we didn't get some of those things, we can cultivate it. It's within us. We can cultivate those aspects of the Father Archetype that can help us to live a more effective, more courageous, more successful life. You know, it's that kind of forward-moving energy, forward-moving into life. So I'd like to explore some of the aspects of that Father Archetype. And, you know, we can kind of see, you know, just check in and like, well, I've got that, you know, I've got that down. Or, hey, maybe I'd like to experience that a little more. Maybe I'd like to develop that a little more in myself. Okay? So the first one is the protector aspect. A protector. And this is, you know, the father wants to keep his family safe, right? That comes from love. That comes from he loves and values his family so much, he wants to keep them free from harm. Well, that's within all of us, of course. You know, we want to protect those that we love. We want to even protect things that we feel important to us. We want to protect the earth. You know, we want to protect the earth. And I think that's a basic, deep need in all of us to take care of and protect the earth. Some people aren't really, you know, connected with that yet, but that's okay. We can help them along. We can inspire them to want to protect the earth, right? But so as a quality of the universal divine within us, that can also translate for us into perhaps setting healthy boundaries. Setting healthy boundaries. You know, that's an expression of self-love. You know, and we can protect our time. We can protect our energy. So protecting our time is about, you know, we can't say yes to everything. Although we'd like to, we can't. We have to honor the commitments we've already made to, you know, others and other things, and maybe the commitment we've made to ourselves to carve out time to nurture our spirit, that we talked about last week. So protecting our time, also protecting our energy. So that protector aspect can help keep us from getting sucked into other people's fears and negative energy. I want to protect my personal space, my energy from, you know, the world's fears or any negative beliefs that might be, you know, floating around in the collective consciousness, right? So very simply, what we can do is just, first of all, become aware of your energy. Become aware of when it shifts, you know. Get sensitive to your energy, and when you feel it sort of pulling down, or you feel, you know, other people's fear kind of creeping into your space, into your personal space, your energy field, you can imagine, use your power of imagination, and imagine the divine light, white light surrounding your energy field, your aura, whatever you imagine this to be, and really visualize it. And you know, the power of your word is powerful. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. You can also say an affirmation. So an affirmation that I have said throughout my life, when I'm feeling this pull of this negativity and this fear of the world, I can say, my aura is closed to all but the Christ vibration. And use any wording that works for you, but it gives you a sense that, you know, I'm sovereign here. I am, you know, I'm standing in my own energy. And then the next step is begin to share that love with others, to radiate that love so that others can begin to uplift their energy, right? That's how we become a healing presence in the world. So, the next aspect of the Father archetype is the provider. The provider. So this is, the traditional role of the father is the provider. Now, fortunately, we're moving away from the idea that the father is the sole provider, right? That's that evolution in consciousness, conscious evolution that we were talking about last month. We're growing from that. So when we look at that, how that aspect is within us, how that can translate for us, it can translate into taking full responsibility for our lives. To know that we're not a victim of the world, A, we're not a victim of the world, B, we don't expect the world to provide for us. The world doesn't owe us a living. And C, when we allow that divine source within us to move through us, as us, move us into the world and sees the opportunities that are available to us. So I recently got a fortune cookie that said, all good things come to those who go after them. Not wait. Go after them, which I think was an interesting, fortune cookie. We actually have a bowl, all the good ones, all the good fortunes that we've gotten from cookies. We put the fortune, the paper, not the cookies themselves. We eat the cookies, but we put the fortunes in a bowl and we invite people to come over and just pick one. That's your fortune for the day. It's a kind of a fun tradition. So that provider aspect is also helps us to problem solve. When we are facing a challenge and we just can't see our way through, that provider aspect can help us to focus and to really search out potential solutions. And then to discern among those potential things, which thing actually is going to work for us. That's that. It's also our ability to set a goal and achieve it. So I think about my mother and raising two young children on her own without a spouse. And in a state of deep grief, And here she is trying to figure it out, she's got to quickly, embody both of those mother archetype and father archetype within herself quickly. And we all have, as I've said, we all have those qualities within us, right? But they were dormant within her because being a woman in the 60s, she looked to her husband to fulfill the father part while she fulfilled the mother part. And now suddenly she's got to figure it out. She's got to embrace both and quickly. She's got to problem solve. And just basic things like, balancing a checkbook. Do you know that women weren't really allowed to have their own bank account until like this, early 60s? And it's like, oh my God, that was not that long ago. So she had to figure that out. She had to figure out how to, how to sell a house. She had to figure out how to get a job that would pay enough to feed both of her children. Yeah, and so she set a goal. And she set a goal to learn skills that would translate into getting a good enough job, that to support everybody. And so she went out and she did it. She achieved it. It's just really amazing to see. Of course, she had two kids that were depending upon her, doing this, but she did it. And I'm just like, I was like, God bless her, And at that time to do that when she was in a state of grief. It was really inspiring. Yeah. So, so another part of this provider aspect is, in addition to providing for ourselves and our children if we need that, is to provide for ourselves spiritual food, right? To seek out and to provide for ourselves spiritual enrichment, spiritual nourishment. Through what? Inspiration from the Sunday service, maybe spiritual books, maybe walking the outdoors and connecting with nature, maybe meditation classes, maybe, programs, whatever. There's so much out there right now, right? There's like a glut of things, of spiritual inspiration and empowerment that you can find. It's everywhere, right? So part of this ability is to discern what is actually nourishing from what we might call empty calories. Sounds good, it's fun, but does it really nourish? So that provider aspect, it seeks out, it discerns what's nourishing from what isn't, and it sets a goal and achieves it and brings it home. Brings it home. That's the provider aspect. All right, so the next aspect I want to talk about is authority. And this is the quality that can have a huge shadow side to it. And it's the one that very often gets abused, right? Some children grow up in fear of their fathers because, he's abusing this power, this ability, being controlling and, just authoritarian as opposed to the authority. But the true power, quality of authority, when we really embrace the spiritual, the universal spiritual concept within us, is about self-authority. It can help us activate the power of our self-authority. That's really what it should be, power over ourselves. And self-authority comes from keeping our agreements, doing what we say we're going to do. And that's true with agreements, the agreements that we have with others, and the agreements that we have for ourselves. So if I am constantly breaking my agreement that I've made for myself, like, for instance, if I say I'm going to do yoga that day, and I get to the end of the day, and I'm in bed, and I haven't done it, I undermine my self-authority. Now, if it's just occasionally, no big deal, right? But if it's a constant thing, you see how you're undermining your self-authority. The same is true if you've made agreements with other people, and you don't do what you say you're going to do. That undermines our self-authority. So this quality, this aspect can really help us with this self-authority. Another part of this idea of authority, when we embrace that and cultivate that quality within us, is that it helps us exercise our power of dominion as co-creators with the divine. Our power of dominion. In other words, to call forth from the field of the infinite possibility that which we truly desire to experience. The power of our word. The power of our word. We were given dominion. Not to dominate others, not to conquer the planet, but dominion over our mind. Dominion over our mind. So our thoughts and our beliefs and our energy, we have control. We have the authority over that, right? We can choose. And we can choose to work with that one universal mind in shaping our lives. So that's that quality. So the last quality that I want to talk about is courage and strength. And when you're a little kid, you look to your father like, oh, he's the strong one. He's the one that does the difficult work. He's the one that, goes out and fights the dragons and, rights all the wrongs in the family's world, right? And then you get a little older and you realize, oh, he's just human. He has doubts like everyone else. He falters and stumbles like everyone else. He succumbs to temptation like everyone else. So again, all of these aspects, all these qualities that our actual father may or may not have brought to the family exist within us as potential qualities within us. And we choose which ones we want to activate and which ones we'd rather not. It's our choice. So this idea of courage and strength can really help us in so many areas. Linda Martella-Whitsitt, one of our favorite people, an author of Divine Audacity, which I frequently go to for inspiration, she says about that, spiritual strength is our capacity to stand undaunted in the midst of shifting circumstances, to act courageously, and to stay the course. I love that definition. It's so beautiful. So that aspect of the Father Archetype can help us exercise that spiritual strength to stand firm in our truth despite, being pulled by others or a desire to be liked, to stand firm in our truth, to have integrity with our values, to stand in integrity with our values. It also can help us to have the courage to follow divine guidance, even when it takes us to scary places, which it does. Takes us to scary places. So that we could call upon this quality, this courage, this inner courage to follow through. To follow through. All right, so there is one more quality that I'd like someone else to share about this, and it's a UCP member and my husband, Dana Cohen. He's had a little accident with his leg here, and I'm going to ask you to stand in front of the mic there. So, yep.
I know I look injured, but I prefer to refer to it as a pause in my mobility.
That's good.
Good one.
Okay, so I actually presented this online during the pandemic. I wrote this some years ago, but this is the first time I'm doing it live, something I wrote about fatherhood. So my father died when I was young. As my wife, we share that. I was left as the caretaker of his unfulfilled promise. Because I wasn't ready for such a burden, the light in my soul went out. My stepfather provided security and support, but it wasn't until I learned to become independent that I rediscovered my light. I lived alone for over 20 years and had no great desire to marry or be a father. When I finally did marry and was ready to have children, it took us over 5 years to conceive. The twins are now adults, and occasionally I have this sense that I need to be ever vigilant so as to prevent them from making big mistakes and ruining their lives. This thinking, I believe, comes from a fear that other parents likely consider: loss of control. But in reality, these young women are not mine. I do not own them. They are of my blood, but not of me. They are individuals who belong to the family of man, are influenced by many forces outside my purview, and are ultimately responsible for their own futures. I can help them by reminding them of their relationship with Spirit and by encouraging them to make good choices, but assuming control that I don't have can be counterproductive. So what I've noticed is that they are at their best when their individual lights are shining, and I am at my best as a father when I see my job as lamplighter. Thank you.